a big question mark. You've seen what happened in Korea, what happened in some other countries, and in fact in some part of America, and issues relating to incidents at the airport. But the question here is, how safe is the Nigerian airspace? I'm being joined tonight by the acting director general of the NCAA, Captain Chris Najoma, live joining us on the program. Thank you so much, Captain Najoma, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sheil. Thank you.
Before I even get into the conversation about the Max Air incident, for those of us who fly quite often, locally, internationally, the question you want to ask yourself is, wait a minute, is the Nigerian airspace safe, Captain Najoma?
The Nigerian airspace is very safe, Sheil. Very safe, I can assure you.
Okay, so, I mean, beyond what you have said, how would Nigerians who are watching you tonight believe what you have said? By evidence, by data, by whatever means possible tonight, please convince us that the Nigerian airspace is safe.
Okay, thank you very much. I can tell you that because, I've flown in this airspace in the last 45 years. So I can tell you the last 3 years, yes, I've not been flying, but however, in the last 40 years, yes, I've flown. I know how unsafe or safe the airspace has been. If we come to talk of what happens in the 2005, 2006, then there were a lot of incidents and accidents. But within the last, I can assure you, within the last 10 years or so thereabout, the airspace is very safe. We've done a lot of enhanced surveillances. Our inspectors are checking our operators day in, day out, and making sure that comply with all the regulation, making sure that their airplanes are well maintained, making sure that their pilots do their simulator recurrency as when due, so the airplane is safe. Come to talk of how safe the Nigerian Airspace Management Agencies with using whatever equipment that they have, making sure that the airspace is safe, they have done pretty well. And I know that right now the Honorable Minister is doing all around, change all those old equipments to modern equipment. But can I assure you, the airspace is safe.
What category do we stand on the FAA listing?
Right now, we've dropped from category 1 back to category 2 as it is right now. And it's not due to safety reasons, because it's due to because there are no airlines operating into the U.S. airspace. As you can see, the last operator that operated it was ARIC, and I was part of one of those people that flew into New York. And when ARIC stopped, of course, after a while, because we stopped flying and there was no Nigerian registered airplane that flew into the U.S. airspace, we lost the Category 1 status. So we are waiting. As soon as any airline that is ready to fly into the airspace, back into the U.S. airspace, we will, of course, apply, and they will come and re-audit us and give us the Category 1 status.
So when you say, Captain Najoma, that the Nigerian airspace is safe, one, we wonder that we suffer, and those who are inside, on the inside, we tell you that we have a lot of outdated, archaic surveillance system and airport navigation control systems at our airports. When was the last time we changed some of these things? And the promise that when I had a conversation with the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, he is saying that under this administration, there will be a new regime in terms of re-equipping our airports for safety. But how old are these navigation systems? Some of our airports, you can't even fly into them anything after 6:30, 7 p.m.
Yes, thank you for that question again, Sheil. Like the Honorable Minister has tried a lot, and he has traveled a lot with the managing director of NAMA in sourcing of changing this old archaic equipment. I can tell you the controllers, the engineers that are managing these present equipments have tried their best to keep them going and safe. A lot of work has been done to change this equipment, and it's ongoing. I tell you, give us some time, all these equipments will be changed. Talking about navigational equipment for landing in these various airports, like the ILSs, it's not only that they are old. Most of the airports have all this landing equipment for landing. It's just that there's this sunset time that makes the airport closes, you know. And as a matter of fact, work is ongoing between me, NAMA, and FAN for us to now open the airports till about 10 p.m. We had a meeting last week, and we're having another meeting next week to be able to synchronize and make sure that these airports remain open. That will now, of course, help in alleviating the problems these our local operators have, so that once we open the airports till about 10 p.m., there will be no need of cancellation or delays of flights into these airports. There are just a few of those airports. Most of the airports, especially in the north, they all have the ILSs that is needed to go into these airports.
I know that regulators will say that some of these airports, we don't own them. But there are some airports in Nigeria, Captain Ajoma, you will testify that they don't bring any kind of confidence when you walk into this airport. And not shaming anybody from these states, Akure Airport is one of it. It looks to me like all those local garages where night buses converge for transportation. And like I mentioned, some part of the Port Harcourt Airport, and in fact, some smaller airports in Nigeria, you imagine, why are these airports in this state? Because when you walk into them, and you know you are flying through this airport, you have a double mind about flying, because those airports, and there are small airports across the globe that have only 2 carousels, but well, they are clean and sparkling, good, looking good. And when you walk in there, you have the confidence that you are flying in a safe place.
Yes, I can assure you that work is ongoing. Like I tell you, these airports, our work is ongoing. Our amiable and very, very strong MD of FAN is doing all she can to make sure all these airports facilitation are all ongoing. And please give this regime some time. You will see that there will be a total change in all these airports as we speak. A lot of work is ongoing.
Before I go into the specifics of the MAX Air situation, I know that the minister announced the Dana issue recently, and safety also was a problem. We'd like to get an update on that, but before we go into that, I'm still talking about safety issue. According to the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Nigeria has a concerning safety record, with a 2021 ranking of 47 out of 54 countries in Africa. How does the NCAA plan to address these statistics and restore confidence in Nigeria's aviation sector of airspace?
We are doing all we can, and we're carrying all checks that are done. You know, as far as ICAO is concerned, we know we've done safety audits, and the last audit that was carried out here, we scored 71%, just to show that there's room for improvement. We've closed all the gaps that are meant to be closed. We've closed them and are still closing more. And I can tell you and beat our chest that if they come back and do this audit, there are a lot of things that we have put in place right now that will make that score go higher than what we have.
So let me go specifically into the incident of the MAX Air, the suspension of the MAX Air operations at the Kano Airport, which is raising significant concerns amongst those who fly through that route. Can you provide a more detailed account as of today, as of this moment that you have, based on that last night incident about 10 p.m.? What more do we know? What more can you tell Nigerians tonight?
Okay. When this thing happened last night, we were called out, and of course, I must be honest with you. What we have done since I came on board here is a lot of surveillance enhancements, a lot of audits. We've decided, I give the order for them to do risk assessment of all scheduled operators. And as we speak, we have done six airlines, 6 of them, notable Arik Air, Overland, eBomb, Air Peace, Rano, and Max Air. We've done risk assessment. And these risk assessments all includes but organization, infrastructure, safety management, compliance, and practices. And because of this, when we carried it out, the one we came out of Max Air wasn't good enough. So when this thing happened, in fact, we just finished that of Max Air last week. So when this thing happened, we now call for a meeting, because it's just one too many. Max Air had a problem in Yola, had a problem in an incident in Maiduguri, and now in Kano. So we called for a meeting, and we called the management of Max Air to a meeting. And we told them, well, we need you to tell us these things have happened one too many. And they have, of course, told us that, yes, this is what happened. But I must also say one thing. I must commend the pilot to have been able to control that nose wheel, because when the aircraft landed, the nose wheel collapsed. And it's very difficult to maintain center line when a nose wheel collapses, because that's where you get the directional control of the airplane. But the pilot was good enough to be able to maintain, and the tires busted. And thank God that passengers were evacuated. Nobody had any injuries or anything, and the aircraft was pulled out of the runway. So Max Air has now told us that, we have decided to ground our operations, so that our local operations, so that we can look inwardly, because we gave them the indices of the risk assessment, which we brought out, and it was not looking good. So I was told, you can give you 3 months. They said 1 month. I said, no, give you 3 months to be able to look at yourselves and make sure that you come out with all the indices that we have given you, that is in the yellow, and we'll come back in 3 months' time and give you another assessment. And this time around, it will be a thorough assessment to make sure that you're ready to fly back safely before we release you back on your local route. That is what we have done.
When the statement came from Michael, there are 2 major things that were identified. One was a wheel landing gear collapse and a tire burst. The other one was a tire burst. All of these happened on the wrong way. Beyond that, Captain, are there any specific regulatory violations that the NCAA has identified?
Well, we have identified that this occurrences happening one too many. You cannot have an occurrence in Yola, have an occurrence in Maiduguri, and then have an occurrence again in Kano. So right now, as it is, the NSIB, which is the accident investigator, is investigating. We cannot put our hands into what has happened. So the NSIB is investigating right now. And once they come out with their investigation, they'll come out with clear terms of what has happened. If it's a real accident, they will say it's an accident. If it's an incident, we are also investigating on our own part, before we have handed over to NSIB to do the investigation. So that's what is happening right now. So we cannot really say a statement until NSIB says this is what happened, this is what happened.
Without any prejudice
we know that the airplane landed, nose wheel collapse, and the tire burst. That's what we know as the regulator.
Without any prejudice to the investigation that the authorities, the regulators are going to make, you've been in the skies for several years. You've flown several times. There are some of you whom experts will say There are those of you who can close your eyes and still fly an aircraft. That is how much you have flown in the sky. So there are some things that will happen that you almost will tell that this could be the issue. Human error based on the aircraft malfunctioning, or based on, because, I mean, how can you imagine that those kind of issues happen, whether mechanical or electrical, or some kind of negligence? What would you say could be a possible, based on the history that Max has had recently, what do you think that could have been a possible situation in the immediate?
I cannot say anything for now, because there's an investigation going on. But as the pilot concerned, I've flown for 45 years. I know that, like I said, what I only said was that I give kudos to the captain who controlled the aircraft, because you see, the control of when you land to taxi the aircraft is your nose wheel. That's where the control is. So if he's able to make sure that that aircraft stays on the center line with whatever control he has controlled, that means he tried. I cannot tell you right now until the Aztecan investigator comes and does its preliminary investigation and tells us. But that's the best I can. Tire burst happens, and nose wheel sometimes collapses, if due to, wear and tear, and due to one reason, maybe some hard landings, nose wheel, landing heavily and all that, it could collapse, So that's what I can say in that regard.
But Captain, a B-734, that is the brand of that aircraft, is a Boeing, a twin engine, short to medium range airliner. There are capability. Could that also have helped because of the brand of engine and that class of that has helped for us to have seen a minimal incident in that particular incident on that runway?
Well, I can tell you, it's a 737. It's not about the particular how big or how small. An accident when it happens, or an incident when it happens. Again, like I said, it all depends on the phase of the accident. Some accidents happen on approach, some happen on landing, some happen on takeoff. But thank God this one happened on landing. And probably on the landing roll, as soon as the nose wheel is touching down, the nose wheel, probably just collapsed at that time. So we give God the glory that that is where it stopped. There was no damage, no injuries, or fatal, anything fatal that happened to passengers.
I can imagine what was going through the minds of those who are on that aircraft. For some of us who scare easy, a little turbulence, some of us might have lost it. But then thank God that God allowed them to land safely and they are all intact. But we understand that Max Air will still have its international flight operations going on despite what happened. Can you explain how that is happening, or why that is happening?
Yes. There are two different types there are two fleets. The B737 fleet is what he uses for his domestic operation, and he uses a Boeing 747 and the 777, that is what he uses for his international operations. And what he does for international operations are the Hajj operations and the Umrah operations. We have no findings in his international operations. So it is his local operation that we've found findings on, and we've told them it will not affect his international operations. Thank you.
Before I allow you go, Captain, prevention, they say, is better than cure. And one will imagine that every regulator responsible for the safety of our airspace will ensure that any aircraft, no matter how big or small, before it lifts off any of the airports in Nigeria, is certified okay and good enough to fly in on our skies. Can you assure Nigerians, and tell us tonight, Captain, what you and your team are doing to ensure that we'll never find this kind of situation happening in our country again under your watch?
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. I can assure everybody here that the NCAA is doing all it can right now to enforce that so much enhanced surveillance is going on. As I speak, our inspectors are on the ramp on a daily basis to check every airline. Once they are coming in and they are going out, deboarding, departing in all the 5 regional stations where we are. We're in Abuja, we're in Port Harcourt, we're in Kano, we're in Kaduna, we're in Lagos. So these are the 5 regions. And in all the airports, we have inspectors and we have CPOs in all the airports, in all the 22, 23 airports we have. So I can assure everybody that the NCAA is on top of its game, making sure that they do all their enhanced surveillance, making sure they check all the pilots, making sure they have their rest period, making sure they have their simulators and all. It's not even only the scheduled operators. We also check the private jets operators. So I can assure you we're on top of the game, and this will never happen by His grace again.
Captain Chris Najoma is the acting DG of the NCAA, but a lot of people are wondering, I hope this will not cause any kind of flight disruptions.
Definitely, he will cause. We told them to promise us that they must make sure that they rebook their passengers on the 2 other carriers that operate the same route, which is Airpeace and Rano, and they have an understanding. The vice chairman of MAXE told us they have an understanding, and where they cannot rebook their passengers, they will give total refund. So it will not cause any of those things like you envisaged.
Thank you so much. May all the birds flying in the skies not experience any turmoil to the extent of crashing into any tree or crash landing. I'm talking about our airspace in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Captain Chris Najoma, who is the Acting Director General of the NCAA. Thanks so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.